channel. Today's video is going to be a series of book reviews. I thought I would share with you the books that I've been reading this year. I feel like my reading has not been great for the start of this year. It's definitely slowed down. I have only read 4 books so far, which puts me, I think, 2.5 books behind schedule for the 50 that I want to read for this year. But we're not going to focus on that. So I've got 4 books to share with you today, all very different books. So hopefully there is something that might pique your interest. I will have all these linked down below in my sort of Amazon storefront. So, I mean, you can click through on that, or you can just go search for it on your own. But those links are there for you if you want to go and purchase them. So the first book is Louis Theroux's Through the Keyhole. So I love Louis Theroux. If you don't know who he is a British documentary maker, and yeah, highly credited here in the UK. And this is his second or third book. I think it's like his third book. And this one documents his time during lockdown, during the pandemic. So starting right at March of 2020 up until sort of the end of last year. It follows him and how him and his family deal with their time during COVID, and makes you remember sort of everything that we went through, especially here in the UK. So not only does this book show what difficulties he faced at the time of trying to make a documentary, but also what his home life was like. You know, raising his kids, the homeschooling aspect of it, the home exercise, the Joe Wicks workouts that I think we all did at some point. And then, you know, it relives the craziness of standing out on your street on a Thursday night and clapping for the NHS, to, you know, people stockpiling toilet rolls. It does seem slightly a distant, far away thing that we did. But I thought this was a really great diary. I thought it really sort of captured what time was like in that point of our lives. It really is sort of a little time capsule of a book, really. And I think everyone could relate to it in some way, as something that he went through. One thing I was surprised at was how much sort of he turned to drink. Not like raging alcoholic, but obviously, you know, he was drinking most nights, and I think a lot of people turn to food or drink or whatever it may be to help them get through that time. Let me see what I wrote about in my little Doodles and Calm book journal. So this, you can, I'll link this down below. It is just, I've shown it before, it's just a little book journal. But for those of us that aren't very good at doing our own bullet journals, this gives you the layout already, and helps to sort of track your reading. I can do like more of an in-depth review of this maybe a couple months down the line when I've been using it for quite a bit. But let me get to the review portion. So I gave it 5 stars. I rated the plot 5 stars, characters I put not applicable, and would I recommend? Yes. So I've put a time capsule diary entries of the life through COVID in the UK, reflects on life with kids and strain on couples' relationships. So obviously talked about him and his wife. He was drinking a lot, which I mentioned. Emulated the feelings and actions of most of the British public trying to make documentaries through lockdown. Mentioned things that maybe 2 years on we might have forgotten, like singing Happy Birthday to Wash Our Hands and what they called the Pindemic, or the Pingdemic. So yeah, that's what I thought of Louis Theroux's newest book. Next, I'm only going to touch on this briefly because I have done a separate complete video for it. This is From Auschwitz with Love. If you've seen that review, you may be thinking, oh, you've got the physical copy now. Yes, so I read this as an ebook, and then when my husband actually saw the review and saw that I would actually quite like to have the physical copy, he went on Amazon and bought me it. So yeah, I was really honoured to be asked by one of the main ladies in this, her daughter, to review this book. So this book is written by her husband, but it tells a story of her mother and her aunt during the time of the war and being taken to Auschwitz. So not only does it follow their time during their 7 months in Auschwitz, but it also talks about, you know, the time after. It says there was 5 months worth of marching through the Sudeten mountains, and what it was like, you know, being under the SS guards. But then it also talks about their move to America, and how they, you know, started their own lives but went two very different ways. So if you want to see more about this book and know a little bit more about the people in this book, then I will link it up in a card and down below. Let me see what I put in my thing. Again, I gave it 5 stars. I've really been picking some good books to start this year. So plot was 5, characters 5, and obviously I recommended it. I have put on the side that it was a gifted book. Let's see, written by one of the son-in-laws, but reads as if it was written by the 2 sisters through their diary entries. Amazing what luck came their way to survive Auschwitz. Interesting to see how such different paths and mindsets they had coming out of the war and each sister's perspective. And then I put quite a short, easy flowing book. So that's what I thought of that. Next, I read a very different book. This is Vox by Christina Doucher. And if I didn't mention the author of the last book, the Auschwitz one, it's called From Auschwitz with Love, and it's by Daniel Seymour. So yeah, this is Vox by Christina Doucher. This book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I read the plot as a 5 and the characters as a 4, but I would still recommend it. So this is like a dystopian book set in America, but very much feels like it could be present day, where America has it feels like it's gone back in time as far as women's rights and, you know, how women are perceived in today's world. And it very much makes a point in saying that it seems like it's only America where this is happening, because she mentions about family in Italy not having to have such same limitations. Basically, this book is about a woman called Jean, who is a very highly rated sort of surgeon, or not surgeon, a scientist specialising in the brain. And it has come about that this new government came in power and they have basically stripped all women of their voice. They're no longer able to work. They are only seen as being good as being housewives and raising families. And obviously Jean, who was a very well-educated, very successful scientist, found very difficult. But not only do they take their jobs away, they take their voice away. And that's where Vox, I guess the name comes from. And basically every woman, and I think every female child, has a tracker. And every time that they say a word, that is one less word that they can have in a day. I think it was like they get 100 words a day. And if they go over that, then the bracelet sends a shockwave. So it is quite like a traumatizing thing to sort of get your head around. And the fact that, because obviously we live in such a liberal world now, where most of the world is accepting of women being equals. There are obviously countries that still don't believe that, but especially like in the UK, and obviously this book is set in America, it's quite shocking to think of a world that could be like that, because we don't know what's around the next corner. We don't know what government could come into power and change all these different rules. So that's kind of what it's about. And it also follows I think it's the president's brother has some sort of brain condition, and they then want to go and recruit Jean back into her role, but there seems to be darker motives behind it, why they want her. She's quite cautious. There's a little bit of romance, but not in the sense that you'd expect. Yeah, really interesting book. I gave it 4 stars. I've put a dystopian America where women have physically had their voices taken away and restricted lives. Women seem to stay at home and be the housewife. The plot made you angry and really think how much privilege we have now. Really shows a corrupt government. And then I put would have liked the end to have been fleshed out a bit more and explained a bit more, because I was expecting it to be part of a series, but it seems to just be a standalone book. So I think that's why I gave it 4 stars, is because the ending could have been elaborated more on. I think there could be another book, but I don't think there has been another book as far as I'm aware made yet. And then the last book that I've just finished, and this has taken me pretty much the whole of the month to finish, and it's not even because it's a bad book. I think I've just been prioritising other things, which towards the end of the month I've started to try and read more. But this is The Sanatorium by Sarah Pearse. This was one of the most anticipated reads for me this year. I just saw it everywhere and I thought it sounded really good. It's about this eerie sanatorium now made into a hotel in the Swiss Alps, and this woman called Ellen goes with her partner to this hotel, this newly refurbed, newly opened hotel, where her brother and his new fiance help run and manage this hotel. And they arrive there. Ellen, we know, is a detective, but for whatever reason we're not sure why she is currently on a break. We also know from the start that there was something that happened to her and her brother's younger brother, Sam, I think his name was. Something really tragic happened to him when he was younger, but we're not quite sure what happened, and we think, you know, there may be something darker going on there as well. So yeah, let me read you the back of this one. A beautiful, eerie hotel in the Swiss Alps, recently converted from an abandoned sanatorium, is the last place Detective Ellen Warner wants to be. But her estranged brother has invited her there for his engagement party, and she feels she has no choice but to accept. Arriving in the midst of a threatening storm, Ellen immediately feels on edge, and things only get worse when they wake the next morning to find her brother's fiancée is missing. With access to the hotel cut off, the guests begin to panic. But this is only the first disappearance. Everyone's in danger, and anyone could be next. So this is a murder mystery. It's a thriller. I just found it really, you know, I loved being in that cold, icy environment, in this hotel. It sort of had that very Agatha Christie-esque feel to it, but it does have a little bit of a dark side, especially how the people die, and yeah, it's very sort of intertwined. You're not quite sure in the beginning, or really any point, who to trust, and right up to the end it sort of caught you by surprise who was actually behind these things. So yeah, let me read you what I put in my book. It was 5 stars for me. I've put a thriller set in an old sanitarium turned luxury hotel. Strange murders happen with Ellen's new sister-in-law going missing. Ellen, despite on leave from the police, steps up to help. She's also traumatised by the past death of her baby brother. And then I've put epilogue twist, who's been following her. So at the end, in the epilogue, it throws another twist in, and I wouldn't necessarily, this is a spoiler, but it feels like someone is still stalking her by the end of this book, and that's what alludes to this being a series. I believe this is the first book by Sarah Pearse. I don't know if it necessarily continues straight on, but there is another book, I think it may be already out or coming out later this year, and it does have the detective Ellen as the main character again, so that would be interesting to sort of follow on, see what happens to her next, her, I guess, going back into her job in the police if she does decide to do that, and what that brings, and obviously who is this stalker that she seems to have. So I really did enjoy this book, despite it taking me about 3 weeks to try and finish nearly. Yeah. That's all the books that I've got to share with you at the moment. I'm currently reading a YA book, which I've not read YA for ages for what it feels like. Yeah, it's not something I would typically read, but it has really drawn me into. So make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss my future book reviews, where I will probably mention that at some point. But yeah, let me know what you want to see in ways of videos, book related or not. I'm assuming if you've got to the end of this video, you are here for the book video, so let me know what kind of things you would want to see, if it's more individual book reviews, or if you prefer these ones where I do maybe like 4 in one video. Let me know, and yeah, make sure you like this video if you are here to the end, and I will see you very soon. Bye guys!